So welcome back, you guys, for our fourth and final session of our Breathing Life into Characters design class tonight. And Jake is going to finish up, and I'm going to heckle him the whole time, right?
Oh yeah, I want to talk first about you look at your characters, and one of the things that's kind of important in getting across their their life, the liveliness to them. Sometimes you say, "Oh, my character's dead. My character just doesn't have that life." A lot of times, it might be in the overall pose, but the other part of that, and it's often neglected, and we went over a little bit with Brandon, is the hands. There's a lot to be said about being able to draw hands. So I just want to go over hands really quick and how you actually draw hands, kind of the structure there.
That's a good
And
one.
I want to say, too, that you need to give yourself a homework assignment this week, or for the next 2 weeks. And what that is to draw 50 hands. Just go find them, copy from hands, pause the movie, copy the hands, draw your friend's hands, draw your left hand, but draw 100 hands. And draw them using this, draw them by building up their structure first. And I'm going to talk about that right now. So we talked about those simple shapes earlier, right? The square, the circle, the triangle. Yeah, those. They apply to hands too, okay? Basically, if you can draw something like this, and you could draw these, then you, my friend, have got drawing a hand down.
Those look like severed fingers.
Yeah, all a hand is those pieces. Hands are complex. There's about as many moving parts in a hand as there are in a whole body, right? And when you're speaking of a character, so you have to look at it as those basic shapes. See? Okay. So first, let's talk about proportions. Start with a soft square. It's usually a little bit firmer up top, but a little bit softer on the bottom, and then the fingers are a soft, roundish triangle on the top, and treat them all as one piece. And this right here is basically the base structure of a hand. They're divided half and half, fingers to palm, half and half. Now, in real life, true proportions are a little bit more varied than that, but this is good for just laying down and getting your structure there. And if you want it super realistic, then look at realistic hands. But I think for 90% of animation design, comic book design, children's books, illustration, all those kinds of things, this kind of stuff will suffice. Then the third piece is the thumb. Thumb attaches at the bottom in the middle of the palm, not the side. And I think that's something that confuses and people slip up on. If you look at your hand, hold it right in front of your face, and hold your thumb out away from the hand, and then palm towards you, point that thumb at your nose, okay, and look where that joint is moving. Is it moving on the edge of your hand? No. That joint goes all the way to the center of your hand, and that is why they say we have these opposable thumbs. This thumbs can reach around and grab things. It can touch its pinky. It can touch the base of the pinky. It can almost touch the other side of the palm. And so there's a whole lot of range of movement there. And that is important to remember when you're drawing the base structure of the hand. Okay, now once that's in place, you go in and you define the digits. If it's more of a cute character, they're going to have 3 fingers and a thumb. If it's a more realistic character, they're going to have all 5 fingers. The fingers' heights, you got the middle finger's longest. The index and the ring finger are pretty much the same length, and then the pinky's shorter, and they're all about equidistant from each other. Now you take those fingers and you cut them pretty much in half, favoring the ends of the fingers, and that's where they're mostly going to bend. And then you cut those in half again, and that's where the third bend is, or the third section of the digit is going to happen. And then I add a little palm line on there too for just to define that section of the hand.
Because on the other side of that is the knuckles.
Yeah, the knuckles.
So see, I know something too.
Look at this.
About
What's that?
hands. I know something too about hands.
Yeah. If you look at how the fingers are divided up, it goes. I just look at them as half and then half again. You've got the whole finger half, half. Now, where does the wrist attach? Wrong. It does not attach in the middle of the hand. You don't want to do that. You're going to want to attach it to the outside of the hand, on the pinky side. If you look at your hand again, hold it up. That's pretty much where the straight lies. The other side, on the thumb side, is where your curve is going to lie, and most of the hand stretches off that side. Okay, so let's start drawing some hands. Remember, 3 basic shapes make the hand: the palm, the fingers, and the thumb. Think of it as a mitten, and that's a lot of times what I do, and that's what you saw Brandon doing when he was drawing it. He was drawing 2 big basic blob shapes and then filling in the details. But if you think of it as a mitten, it becomes a little bit easier to wrap your head around this really complex shape. And then once you've got your mittens drawn, you can add all the detail. Add in the little fingers in places, add in your thumbs, and then add in wrinkles. Here's some tips. Fingers are never parallel, all right? They always are offset a little bit. You group fingers together, and you have them pointing in different directions. They never all point in the same direction.
So why not all parallel? Because like I'm doing that right now with my hand, and they seem to parallel okay.
But they're not.
Are you saying you're saying that it's boring that way, or that they're not?
I'm saying
actually...
it's not true. It's not actual, and it looks robotic. It looks stiff.
Mm-hmm.
Any sort of hand in a natural position, you never have the fingers all pointing in the same way. You just don't do it, okay, Will? Just don't. You see, I mean, you look at the difference between those top 2, which feels like a hand of a person and which feels like the hand of a cardboard cutout. You know? So don't do the fingers parallel. Is that all my tips? Oh, I think that was it. What other tips are there? I think the grouping thing is the other tip that I wanted to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Let's show you some examples of hands from a Google image search. So this is Iron Giant. If you just type in hand model sheet, you can get all kinds of things up. But look at how these hands have the wrist attaching to the one side, really favoring that side. Look at how none of the fingers ever pointing in the same direction. Mm-hmm. They're all kind of going off in different ways. Also look at the size variance here and how appealing this is. The wrist is actually just as thick as the thumb. Mm. And it gives it a nice appealing shape. Here's some more.
So Soren says he's used that. Our 16-year-old has used that reference sheet.
That's great.
Yeah, that's...
You can see here the base image that he's drawing first before adding the detail. So these would be good hands for you guys to copy. And when you copy them, don't just copy the hand, but go in and like we're showing with the Brandon was showing with the Bugs Bunny drawing, and I was showing with the bolt drawings, that you go in and you draw the structural shapes first. What shapes are making what's up.
So you draw the square and then attach things to it. Oh, those are great.
Right.
Look at that. Those are wonderful.
So this is how you can really push that shape. What happens if you shy away from squares, but you go with more rounded ball shapes? Let's see what kind of hands you get. Let's see. Okay, Ariel's hands. This is a kind of a woman's hands. They'll be a little bit more tapered, a little bit more graceful, and you can see that when these hands have each finger separate, they get a little clawy. They kind of look like a little creepier, I would say. So a lot of times what animators will do is group the fingers together, and then they're read as one solid, graceful shape, and 4 separate, 5 separate needly shapes. You can see here how they use the sort of this curvature to line the knuckles up. And if you're ever wondering, how do I make my fingers look line these fingers up in a way that looks believable and not too stiff, when you think of them as always following a curve. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. But here's just more examples of hands.
So can you find most of those on a Google search?
I found all of them on a Google search.
Of just like, what would you type in? Hand model sheets or hand?
Yeah, how to draw hands, hand model sheet, hand drawn hands, milk call hands. Here's a sheet that you can look at. I think this one is called Milk Hands -1. That's a popular image. Somebody went and screen grabbed all the hands from Sorcerer's Apprentice. Is that what it's called? The Sword in the Stone. And just beautiful hands they did. And I'll show you this one, right? So this is old hand sheet from a How to Draw book I used to have growing up. I might still have a copy of it somewhere. But you can see they're still doing that same method. The ball, the mitt, the thumb, and then adding in details. Go copy all of these. I guarantee once you've drawn 50 hands, you will be drawing hands better than before you drew the 50 hands. If you don't, you can get your money back.